Welcome everyone back. Hope you had a good break. So the next session is led by Ray Kim, and he's going to be talking about Networking 101, Building Professional Relationships. So go for it.
Okay. Welcome everybody. This is my session, Networking 101. My name is Ray Kim. I'm speaking to you from upstate New York, out here on the East Coast. Like I was telling Maria earlier, I think it's pretty funny that I see this as a 1 o'clock session because it's 4 o'clock where I am right now. So anyway, I'm going to take one slide and a few minutes to introduce myself and for you guys to get an idea of who it is that's speaking at you over on Microsoft Teams here. First of all, that information that you see up there is a link to my blog and also my LinkedIn. I am okay with people connecting with me on LinkedIn. However, I do have one request. Please also include a note saying that you saw me here at SQL Saturday. If you just sent me a blind request without any note, chances are I'm either going to delete or ignore it. So if you want to connect with me, that's fine, but please include a note. So anyway, going on here. My tagline is, my job is to make other people's jobs easier, because that's pretty much what I do. I am a technical writer. As a matter of fact, I'm starting a brand new job on Monday. As a matter of fact, my new employer is actually located out there in LA. So I do have background in application and web development and with SQL Server, along with a variety of other IT technologies. I'm pretty much a jack of all trades. But tech writing is my big strength, so that's pretty much where I focus my efforts. I've been speaking at SQL Saturday since 2015, and I've spoken at Past Summit twice. The funny thing is, despite all this experience with SQL Saturday, I actually don't talk about SQL Server. All of my presentations are pretty much all professional development topics. So as I like to tell people, I'm the professor at MIT who teaches English Lit. I am a member of a group called CASUG. In case you're wondering, that stands for Capital Area SQL Server User Group. We are located in Albany, New York, which is about where I am, about 150 miles north of New York City. I live actually in the city of Troy, which is about 5 miles away. Part of a local UI group, and I am also a member of STC, the Society for Technical Communication. In my spare time, I'm not working on IT or technical writing or SQL or whatever else. I'm a musician in my spare time. I could have been a musician professionally, but my parents wanted a science major. They wanted me to get a job, go figure. Big sports fan. I can talk your ears off for hours on end about baseball. I will warn you about that in advance. And also, another thing I will also warn you in advance is I'm a proud Syracuse alum. I proudly bleed Syracuse orange. So I think that's about it for me. You didn't come here to hear me talk about me. So let's move on from this. Let's talk about a little bit about what you're going to see in this presentation. I will say that right off the bat, like I said, this is professional development. This is not technology specific. A lot of what you are about to see is pretty much based on my own personal experience. My MO when I'm doing these sort of things, I don't like to lecture. I really don't. But realizing that in this kind of environment where pretty much you guys are all listening and I'm pretty much talking at you, it's kind of hard not to do that. Even when I used to teach part-time, I always had my students sit in a circle. We would have a discussion, and I would act as a facilitator. That's my preferred MO. That said, I like to get you guys involved. I like doing interactive presentations. So I do have a demo later on in this presentation where I'm going to ask for a couple of volunteers. If you have any questions, by all means, feel free to bring them up at any time. I will make sure I monitor the chat room and see if anything comes up in there. So please ask away. Any questions come up, let me know. So here's what we'll talk about in this session. We'll start with, networking. What exactly is it? Why is networking important? Where do you go network? I mean, one of the big questions might be, okay, I want to network. Where do I go and how do I do it? Speaking of how you do it, we're going to talk about that quite a bit. One of the biggest issues, probably the hardest thing to do with networking is how to break the ice. So we're going to spend several slides talking about how to break the ice. Like I said, we are going to have a little exercise where we're going to try doing a little bit of networking. I am going to ask for a couple of volunteers. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But if you think about if you want to take part in our little demo, and when that time comes, I'll ask for volunteers, and we'll see how this works. I will say that this exercise works a lot better when we do this in person. I have done this session virtually before, and I've gotten it to work with the varying levels of success. We'll talk about online networking. Everybody, I mean, now that we're coming out of the pandemic, I mean, we're doing a little more with face-to-face and getting people back together, but there's a lot still going on with online networking, so we'll make sure we'll talk about that. So here are a few things to remember as we go through this thing. Something to keep in mind. We're going to focus primarily on networking professionally. There are all sorts of different ways to network and all sorts of different topics in terms of networking. I'm going to focus primarily on professional networking only because if we talk about other things, this session will probably go along a lot longer than just an hour. Networking is an art. It's entirely possible that stuff that I say in this presentation, either you might disagree with it, which is okay, or maybe it just doesn't apply to you, which is also okay. A lot of what I talk about in this presentation is pretty much mostly suggestions. None of this is tried and true methods. There are ideas that seem to work for me. Maybe they'll work for you. Maybe they won't work at all. Who knows? There are a lot of different ways to network, and networking will not happen overnight. That's important to. I think that's an important point, because if you create a LinkedIn, profile and you connect to like 2 or 3 people, okay, maybe you have a network, but it's not very effective. If you want it to be effective, I mean, you got to grow it a lot more than that. Paresh Moala, who's located out of Boston, and a friend of mine, and another SQL Saturday speaker, told me he has over 3,000 connections. So take that for what that's worth. But if you want to be effective, it's going to take a while. It's likely going to require a little bit of effort. Unfortunately, this is the bad news. It might require you stepping out of your comfort zone. These are points that we will address as we go along. All right, so networking, what exactly is it? When I put this presentation together, I mean, the first thing I want to do is, what exactly does the dictionary say what networking is? So I went to dictionary.com and I came across this. I'm not going to read it to you. You can read it for yourself, or if you want, go to dictionary.com or open your favorite dictionary, Webster's or whatever, and look up networking and see what it says. So for me, when I think about networking, I think networking is about relationships. You're this person here, you have this other person here. You start chatting away, you develop some kind of relationship. It can be whatever it is. Couple of buddies, couple of people hanging out over a beer. Maybe you just met at some events such as SQL Saturday and saying, hey, listen, I think I have this thing that might help you out, whatever. It's mutually beneficial, the two-way street. What one person does the other favor and vice versa, the proverbial I rub your back, you rub mine sort of thing. Of course, if you have a strong relationship, it's going to make that network even more stronger. Now, that said, these people that you network with, you don't necessarily have to be BFFs. You don't necessarily have to be friends. Being acquainted is okay. I mean, heck, I have all these LinkedIn connections that I may not even know who they are if they bumped into me on the street. But that said, we've developed relationships, connections, if you will. One thing I will mention, by the way, is just because you're connected doesn't necessarily mean you're networked. In my opinion, you got to have some kind of relationship. Doesn't have, like I said, doesn't have to be a strong relationship, but it's got to be a relationship. Just because you're connected does not mean you're networked. And I have an example later on, which I'll talk about, which I think illustrates that example. So, moving right along with this thing here. Networking. Why is it important? Before I go on, does anybody have any questions or comments so far? So, at this point in time, I'm going to assume it's going to be pretty quiet here. So, why is networking important? Show of hands. I think you guys have a raise your hand button on there somewhere. How many of you are job hunting right now? Just out of curiosity. All right, yeah, 3 people so far. Well, whatever. So here's a scoop. I personally, I'm starting a new job on Monday, and it's really a big relief because I had been unemployed for over a year, and let me tell you how good that is. A good feeling to finally be working again after you've been out of work for that long. Well, the number one reason I think that networking important is, apologies for tripping over my own words here. Maria, I don't know how to clear the hand raising. That's something I'm guessing that's something you control.
Yeah, I'll take care of it.
Okay, but anyway, going back to this thing, why is networking important? Let's start with job hunting. There was a LinkedIn article back in 2016 saying that 85% of all jobs were filled through networking. I don't know how accurate that number is, but regardless of whatever that number it is, it's a pretty significant number. So the rule of thumb, not rule of thumb, but I guess the conventional wisdom is that help wanted ads aren't as effective as they used to be. I mean, I feel that a lot during the last year. But if you really want to find where the jobs are, having a really strong network is going to help that out. You develop professional relationships. Again, I mean, strong relationships make a strong network. Career advancement, who knows? I mean, because you know people, someone out there might be able to say, hey, I'd like to move you up to such and such a position. Could happen. You never know. If you're familiar with the term the hive mind, for those of you who are not familiar with that term, what that means is, let's say you have a question about something, you're looking for somebody who's expertise. You have a large network, and somebody out there has got to know something about it. Let's say, for example, just to throw an example out there, let's say you're on Facebook and you post questions like, hey, I'm looking for, let's say, your favorite steak restaurant in New York City. Do you guys have any recommendations? And, you know, your network might be able to come up with those sorts of answers for that. Increase exposure. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I mean, the more you're, the bigger your network, the more people who's going to see who's on there. And the nice bonus is you make new friends. I can't tell you how many people that I let in my network years ago who are some of my best friends right now, including people from old jobs, some previous professions. I've been speaking on SQL Saturday since 2015, and some of my closest friends have come out of all these other speakers that I've met through SQL Saturday and other events like this. I mean, if you're familiar with the Twitter hashtag SQL Friends, I mean, that's a real thing. SQL Friends, SQL Family. A lot of very close friends through my SQL network here. Okay, where to go network? First of all, let's start with some of the obvious examples. First obvious example is right in your own workplace. These are probably some, I think, can be some of your best networking contacts, and that's because these are people who know how you work, know what kind of job you do, know how well you work, the quality of work. If somebody asks for a reference, what's your network going to say about you? Your own workplace, I think, is one of the best places to pick up networking contacts. Even my own network, I have large network of people from people I used to work with, and they make great references, and they could make a great network. How many of you are members of your local user group? If you remember user group, there are a bunch of people there you can network with, talk with. By the way, let me also mention my local user group. We will be meeting on.
Even if the CIO, the city.
I'm sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Where was I here? Quick plug. My Albany user group. We will be meeting on Monday. So if anybody wants to join in with that, come check it out. Conferences. If you're here on this conference right now, this is a great opportunity to network, people. You have a whole bunch of people who are sitting in on these sessions from not just there in LA, but I'm assuming all over the world. I sat in on another session earlier, and somebody asked questions like, "Where's everybody from?" I saw Kansas on there. I'm from New York. I think I saw Great Britain on there. There are people all over the place. That's a great opportunity to network. If you check out this session, Matt Cushing, who is another very good friend of mine, we also met on the SQL.Saturday network. He also does a presentation, which is also called Networking 101, but for his session's actually a different one. He talks about getting ready for a SQL event. He talks a lot about his experience at Past Summit, and he gives a great presentation. If you're looking specifically to excuse me, to meet people at a conference like that, his session is a great one. He has all sorts of advice and suggestions about how to network at a large event like that. Business meetings, mixers, events, whatever. Bottom line, pretty much look for any group or organization that matches whatever you're interested in pursuing professionally. So, all right. So, those are the obvious ones. How about some of the not so obvious ones? What about, for those of you who have kids, what about your kids' activities? A lot of them play sports. They'll play concerts. You go to these things, and who are you going to connect with? You're going to meet with other parents who probably work professions that are similar to yours or have interests that are similar to yours. Hey, you never know. Even your own activities. I mentioned in my first slides, hey, I'm a musician in my spare time. I play in a large symphonic concert band. As a matter of fact, that's that picture you're looking at right there. That guy is standing next to me in that picture is actually a very good friend of mine. But your own extracurricular activities is a great place to network with other people. Alumni functions. If you went to a school that holds functions or has some kind of alumni networking group, the great place to great one resource to tap. My gym. I can't tell you how many people I've met at my gym who are now members of the user group that I help run. Parties, cookouts, social events, random meetings, people you bump into. Bottom line is that any time that you interact with someone else and you start talking to them and you develop a relationship, guess what? You're building a network, and that can go a long way in helping you build that network. All right, how are we doing so far? Questions, comments, anything like that so far? I don't see anything yet. So, all right, let's see. How to network. I'm going to be spending a lot of time on this section on how to network because there are probably going to be a lot of questions on here. So anyway, how do you go network? If you network socially, then you're probably already a step ahead because you've developed skills, people skills, if you will, that you feel comfortable going up to other people and saying, "Hi, my name is Ray," or "My name is so-and-so. What do you like to do?" This, that, and the other thing. If you're likable, if people like you, people are going to be more likely to engage you. You're more likely to be remembered for the right reasons. You don't want to be remembered for the wrong reasons. Like, what if you're not liked? If you're not likable, people are going to stay away from you. Be very body language. If you're talking to somebody else and that somebody else is sitting here like, yeah, whatever. Can we move on? I think that's a pretty good sign to move on, change your strategy, whatever. Sometimes what you don't say can speak volumes. Sometimes they're cues, whatever else. Okay. Show of hands. How many of you consider yourself to be introverted or shy or socially awkward? Just out of idle curiosity here. And if don't be afraid to raise your hand. I'll tell you what. I could be. It depends on my situation. I mean, I'm here speaking at SQL Saturday. I've been doing this for several years. So, of course, those of you who don't know me might think that I'm pretty outgoing. I can converse fairly well. I'll tell you what, I could go either way, and it usually depends on the situation. If I go to a party where I know absolutely no one, Maria, you can clear the hands now. If I go to a party where I know absolutely nobody, I could just as easily be the person off in the corner, sitting by himself, who's not talking to anybody. So I get it. As a matter of fact, I wasn't always like this. I mean, there was once a time I was very, very, I don't know, shy, closed, didn't want to interact. I've been there and done that. So those of you who raise your hands, I get it. I really do. You're not alone. A lot of people are uncomfortable with trying to break the ice, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But anyway, moving on to this thing. First of all, I'll start with the bad news. There's going to be a little bit of effort involved. Again, I apologize. There's really no way around this. I would love to tell you that it's going to come easily and naturally. It isn't. So some kind of effort may need to be involved, and it's probably going to require you stepping out of your comfort zone. I'm a big believer in, if you want to get ahead in pretty much anything, you need to step out of your comfort zone. So it is what it is. So, but good news, it's possible. It is doable. You want to look for ways to break the ice, and we're going to talk about that in much more in depth in a few minutes. Practice and prepare. It's funny when I think about practicing for a social event. I think about the nerdy kid who's sitting here, pretending to be kissing his pretend girlfriend. I mean, it's kind of funny that way. But you want to know something? Practice makes perfect. If you introverted, you're shy, you're not comfortable, go ahead and talk to yourself in a mirror. Nothing wrong with that, and who's going to know? And if you really don't feel comfortable, there's nothing that says you can't bring a friend. I mean, people, I know people who will ask, listen, I'm going to this party, I don't feel comfortable, can you come along with me? Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you need to bring someone along for moral support, go ahead and do it. All right, so when you're trying to network with somebody, there are basically 3 steps. Step number 1 is initiate your contact, and as I put it, breaking the ice. This is the hardest part. This is probably the part that you're probably going to have to work on the most. And yes, we are going to talk about this more in a little bit. Step number 2: once you do break the ice, you want to make conversation. When you're making conversation, make the other person feel comfortable. Make them, I say him or her, valued, and be genuine. And one thing that I don't think is stressed enough is listening is an important skill. Make sure you listen to the other person. That other person's gonna have stuff to say. Like I said, it's a two-way street. Communication, two-way street. one hand rubs the other. Close a conversation. You want to make an arrangement to continue the conversation later. That's your connection, and that's where you build your network. If you walk off and you say, "Hey, nice talking to you, see you later," you don't get the person's name, you don't get his contact information. What good's that going to do you? I mean, that's not building a network. I mean, the whole point of this is get connections and build your network. So it's important to close a conversation and make arrangements to continue that conversation later on. Whether or not it happens may be another story, but at least you'll have that resource. So, all right. So here's the big thing. How do you break the ice? All right. So those of you who are, not comfortable, shy, I mean, this is probably the biggest impediment to getting started in networking. One of the easiest things to do to break the ice is say hi. Nice, easy. You just broke the ice. Hello. One of the easiest things to do. Start with your name. Hey, how you doing? I'm Ray. How you doing? So, what do you think of? I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe making someone a compliment. Make it genuine. Don't suck up or act like a jerk. Hey, it's like I like that outfit you're wearing. Where'd you get that? Or that's a nice tie. Or I don't know. There are probably some other examples I come up with. My brain's drawing a blank right now. Sorry about that. Ask a question. You're at SQL Saturday. Hey, what'd you think of Ray's presentation? You like it? What'd you like about it? Put it in forms of question. I'll take good questions for $200, please, Alex. Talk about your current event or situation. Maybe you just walked out of a room where where the person had a very good presentation, and that presentation can be a conversation starter. It's like, I liked it when so and so talked about this. Another way to break the ice right there. Neutral small talk. It's like one of the most biggest cliches in small talk. It's like, hey, how about this weather? What's that they say about LA? It never rains in Southern California. So, another example. I mean, not everybody's into sports, but sports is one of the most universally beloved topics to talk about. So, sometimes I'll start conversations about sports. I'll talk about this a little more in a couple of slides, but it's like I'll wear outfits that have to do with sports, and sometimes there'll be a conversation starter. I'll talk about it a little more in a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the flip side. Like I said, you don't want to make the impression that you're not liked, or you want to be a jerk, or it doesn't matter if you are or not. You don't want to give that impression. So a couple of things that you never ever want to start a conversation with. Stay away from hot button topics. Never, ever, ever, ever start a conversation with politics or religion. Those are topics that are very hot. Those are topics that people may not agree with you, and may not agree with you to the point where they may look at you like you're a jerk. So stay away from those topics. Likewise, anything that's socially unacceptable. Black Lives Matter these days is a big deal, rightfully so. Anything sexist is a big deal. Stay away from those. Don't get into it. I see a hand raised there. Question? Go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like. Okay, sorry, missed that there. Anything socially unacceptable, stay away from it. That's not something that you want to use to break the ice. Folks, save the cheesy pickup lines for the dive bars, or even better, stay away from them at all costs. I mean, after all, we're talking about connecting to other people professionally. It's not an opportunity to pick up members of the opposite sex or the same sex, if that's what you're into, but stay away from the cheesy pickup lines. Of course, you don't want to talk about anything personal. If you don't know a person well, you don't know what buttons you're going to push, stay away. you don't want to suck up or brown nose or kiss up. Again, that goes back to being genuine. Being genuine, be yourself. I mean, you can be your own best, I guess, marketing material, for lack of a better phrase. If you act like you be yourself and you act genuine, then you should do all right. Again, there you go again. No BS, nothing fake, nothing insincere. Anything boring or overwhelming. It's great that you know everything that there is to know about, let's say, about data structures, but is that really something that you want to overwhelm someone with? I mean, if the other person's getting to the point of, yeah, go on. Are we done with this conversation? Chances are that person's not going to talk to you. If that person starts getting to the point where they're looking for excuses to get out of the conversation, then no, stay away. Stay away from sales pitches. My opinion. I mean, if you're at a sales convention, that might be another thing, or if you're at some kind of event where you're expected to be sold something, fine. But if you're not, people generally don't want to be sold anything. I know me personally, one of the biggest turnoffs is anytime I get a phone call or and I'm not talking about spam, mind you, but okay, maybe I am talking about spam. But anytime somebody says, "Hey, I'd like to sell you," guess what? I hit the hang up button immediately. So there are wrong ways to break the ice. So that leaves a bad impression, bad taste. So stay away from those. So there's some other ways to encourage conversation as well. That picture for me from the very beginning. What you wear can be conversation piece. Look at my picture on this slide. I mean, I'm wearing in this picture 3 pieces of clothing, each of which can start a conversation. Like I said, the T-shirt I'm wearing under there, I'm a proud Syracuse alum. That has actually sparked conversations before. I remember going to a restaurant in New York City. I was wearing an SU shirt, and this guy waiting there for a table said, "Oh, you went to SU? So did I." Blah 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 blah. That was an icebreaker right there. The baseball jersey. Okay, yes, I'm a big Yankee fan. Disclosure: my wife is a big Red Sox fan. Yes, mixed marriage. But even if they root for the other team, again, that's an icebreaker. The baseball cap I'm wearing. My fraternity, that started conversations before. As a matter of fact, I wore that same cap to a past summit in 2019, and I was stopped by like 3 or 4 different people who all identified themselves as being fraternity brothers. That was great. That was a great experience. Again, talk about your current situation or event. If you're at a conference where they're talking about some topic, I mean, that's a great conversation starter. Contribute to conversation. It's like, like I said, I'm a huge baseball fan, and whenever I hear people talking about baseball in the background, my ears immediately perk up, and I'll find it in there somewhere in the conversations. And you usually not in a way to interrupt, saying, "Hey, listen, I overheard you talking about Aaron Judge's batting average of 2020 or whatever the conversation is," and I'll steep myself in the conversation somehow. If you see somebody sitting all by themselves, maybe an introvert in the corner who doesn't know anybody at the party, you know what? That person probably wants to interact somehow, but doesn't know how. You see someone alone, go introduce yourself. I mean, don't be afraid to go up to someone who's sitting alone, say, "Hi, I'm Ray. What's your name? And what are you doing here? How do you like this party? Or how do you like this symposium or whatever?" Easiest thing to do, smile. Again, that's the nonverbal equivalent of saying hi. If you smile at somebody, you've probably just broken the ice. All right, how are we doing here? Okay, these are 2 actual LinkedIn requests that I got on the same day. As a matter of fact, I got these LinkedIn requests after I spoke at a SQL Saturday. I got this in my inbox. if you see this statement in your inbox from somebody asking you to connect, and if you can respond in the chat room to this if you want. If you read this, how would you react? I'll give people a few minutes to respond because I'm curious to see what kind of responses I get here. Go and type in the chat if you want.
I'm on mobile, difficult to chat. But
okay, that's fine.
As like a general automated send.
Yeah.
And I ignore it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. When this email crossed my inbox, this is how I reacted. Let me tell you something. In my mind, this is a perfect example in my mind of how not to break the ice. I mentioned all those rules about how not to break the ice earlier. I mean, these are some of the ones that were broken here. She sucked up. She condescending. She was insincere. It sounded like it was canned. Did not make me feel valued. I'll tell you what, I could not delete this message fast enough. The only reason I kept that message is just so I can use it as an example here in my slide. Very same day, and again, this is after SQL Saturday, I also got this LinkedIn request. I'm not going to read through this whole thing for you, but I'll tell you what, I saw this thing like, okay, cool. I read that, and I liked what she said. When I saw this, I mean, she was complimentary. I mean, I enjoyed your presentation. I mean, that made me feel valued. She mentioned something specific. She mentioned something called the tie challenge. No, I'm not going to tell you what it is. If you want to see it, you got to see one of my other presentations. Grin. But she mentioned something specific in my presentation that told me she was there. She wants to continue conversation. It's like, I'd like to stay in touch and pick your brain. By all means. I mean, I'm happy to start that conversation. I definitely connect with her. That was a few years ago. I'm still connected with her to this day. So I think this is a great way to break the ice. All right, so before we go on, any quick questions here? I'm going to try to move this along because I'm looking at the time and wasn't expecting to take that long. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a networking exercise. And let's do this. We're going to take about 5 minutes of the time here. I would like to add, this is where I said earlier I'd like to give a couple of volunteers. Well, this is that time. I'd like to ask for a couple of volunteers. Raise your hand if you would like to take part. And if you want, I will warn you in advance that you will be speaking.
Okay,
I'll volunteer. Okay. What's your name?
Michael Luna.
Michael Luna. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's do this. Michael, this is the other guy here, Nelson, who's volunteered. Thank you very much, sir. Here's what I'd like you to do. Michael, you're already unmuted. Nelson, if you could also unmute yourself.
I believe I might be unmuted.
Okay. So here's what's going to happen. Like I said, this works a lot better than the live room, but since it's virtual, I can only do 2 people at a time. First of all, you guys are going to do a little bit of networking right here now. Introduce yourself. Now, I'm assuming that you guys don't know each other. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. That is my one ground rule, is you guys do not know each other. Let's do a little bit of networking. Some suggestions here. Introduce yourself. Mention where you're from, what you do. Introduce yourself. I'd say trade business cards, but since this is virtual, that's kind of hard to do. So I'll tell you what. I've got, well, $4.39 for me, $1.39 for people on the Pacific. We're going to take 5 minutes and have you guys do a little bit of networking. So you guys are on. Have at it.
Okay. Hey, hi. What's your name? What do you do? How can I be helpful to you?
Hi, Michael. Well, my name is Nelson, Nelson Navarrete. I live in Huntington Beach. I'm an IT analyst. Something interesting about myself, I enjoy ice hockey. I played ice hockey for about a year. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm both an entrepreneur, database and .NET expert. I work full time, but I have a side business in the nonprofit area, building an app for nonprofits.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
Is
what
there
do
a
you? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I insist.
Oh, I was gonna say. Oh, I mean, so what are you looking for? Can I help you with anything? Can I help you find what you're looking for?
Not at this moment, but I mean, for the most part, I'm just trying to expand my network within the United States in terms of the IT field, whether it's with databases or any other technology or software that could probably provide assistance to our corporation.
Cool. I can introduce you to some people.
That's awesome.
You know, and help
In
you.
which area are you located in?
I'm in Los Angeles or San
Los
Diego,
Angeles.
actually. But I can say one thing to Ray.
Okay,
Go Dodgers.
that's awesome. You're 2 hours, I think, just 2 hours south of me. So
Okay. Oh, well, I'm actually in San Diego. Are you in San Diego?
no, I'm in Huntington Beach, so it's
Huntington
just a
Beach, okay,
short
Orange
2 hour
County.
drive. Hmm? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I used to live in LA and went to a lot of user meetings both in LA and Orange County, both the SQL Saturday. You might have run into each other in the past if you have.
It's possible. I did go to the last SQL Saturday, which was, I believe, out by Loyola Marymount, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I just think that.
Which is in like the LA area, right?
Yeah, now that I'm in San Diego, I tend to go to the Orange County one. We don't, and the San Diego one.
Okay, nice. Well, Michael, it was a pleasure meeting you, and hopefully, I run into you or hear from you soon.
Okay, we keep in touch.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Nice job, guys. Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. So little bit of discussion. We can do this on the chat if you guys want, or if you can unmute yourself as you want. But what are you guys' thoughts about what just happened there? Anybody? I see a couple of hands up there. See, this is one of the things I don't like about virtual sessions. That it's really hard to do these kinds of interactive sessions here. Tareem, to answer your question, yes, I believe this will be going online.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, just one observation. I noticed that, like, maybe was it when Michael was speaking, like he was trying to be like open and friendly, but it seemed like he was focusing too hard on like making the right impression for just the interaction itself instead of getting to know the other person. You know?
Okay.
I don't know. Just an observation.
Okay, so that's not a bad observation. Again, like I said, I mean, this is an art. I mean, there's really no right or wrong way to do this. Well, I talked about wrong ways to break the ice, but other than that, I mean, so. Okay,
So
go ahead.
I belong to a business networking group for a number of years, and
Okay.
the way it was taught was
BNI or something like this.
CEO space,
Okay.
and it was taught there to not say, "Oh, here's my card. That's a business." It was more like that's why it's introduction. What do you do? How can I help you? Now the business networking is a little different because they're actually looking for something. They're looking for venture capital. They're looking for an accountant. They're looking for something, or they're looking for more clients. So I found that has broken the ice. They're not expecting that. They're expecting me to say, "Hey, buy my services. Buy my services." To ask them what they need rather than tell them what I need. Now usually they'll come back to how can I do something for you? And I said, well, I'm looking for people in the nonprofit area. And so that's why I start that way. That's something I learned from the CEO space.
Okay, there's really nothing wrong with that. I mean, if like I said, the exception to some of those rules, and these aren't really rules, these are suggestions. I mean, if you're in a networking group such as, like, for example, BNI, where you're expected to do that, I mean, by all means, go for it. If there are people that are looking for services, I mean, I've taken part in a networking session where basically it was like speed dating. I mean, speed networking. You basically have 30 seconds or a minute to talk about what you're looking for and that sort of thing. So, no, by all means, that's definitely a great point. I'm going to keep it moving here only because I'm looking at the time, and this is going faster. The time's going a lot faster than I expected it to. So, but no, those are all great points. And if you have any more, by all means, feel free to bring it up in the discussion. So some things to keep in mind. I'll go with this quickly. Exchange contact information. That's probably the one thing that those guys didn't really do. If you don't have business cards, make them. I'm going to hold this up to my screen. This is why I was hoping to show off my screen a little later on. But these are some business cards that I use for networking that I made up. I love the reactions I get to these things. Basically, the idea I got for this was business cards, baseball cards. I put two and two together. I came up with these things. I mean, that's a souvenir picture I got from Cooperstown years ago. I put that on a card. On this side, you got my contact information, and if you open it up, I've got my own little mini resume in there. You know, because you know what? What's a baseball card without batting stats? So my stats are my resume. So, you don't have to do a baseball card, business card. Hey, my idea, damn it. But basically what I'm saying is, like, don't be afraid to be creative with your business cards. So, all right. So, and also if you're on LinkedIn, if you don't have LinkedIn, I highly suggest you get it. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit when we talk about online communication. Be sensitive to the other person. I mentioned before about breaking the ice. If you detect the other person getting uncomfortable, maybe you should back off. Respect the other person's feelings and requests. Like I said, make yourself likable and approachable. If you're likable, chances are people will want to engage you. Be yourself. Be genuine. Don't try too hard. Don't be overbearing. So, all right. Before I move on, any quick questions so far? Like I said, I want to make this quick because I'm looking at the time, trying to move this right along at this point. All right, let's talk a little bit about networking online. So, at least one of these, at some point or another, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, TikTok. Point is like these days, everybody and their brother is online on some kind of social network. Let's start with LinkedIn. Basically a social network for professionals. I've heard people talk about, oh, LinkedIn's a bunch of BS. It's not good for anything. Blah 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 blah. I don't think they know what they're talking about, because I mean I've seen job applications that ask for your LinkedIn address. The fact that they ask that question, I think, tells me that potential applicants, or potential employers rather, take that seriously. I mean, professionals use it extensively for networking. It's a place where you can put your resume information, referrals. Think about this way. Let's say you're an employer. You have resumes from two different people, both of whom are qualified, equally qualified, but one has a LinkedIn address and the other does not. Who do you think is going to have the advantage? I think that pretty much answers it right there. A lot of businesses and a lot of professionals take LinkedIn very seriously, which is why I think it's important for you to have a LinkedIn account. If you don't have one, get one. If you have one, I mean, do whatever you can to build up your network through your LinkedIn. Facebook, I mean, don't disregard Facebook for networking. I remember a good friend of mine asked me about job hunting advice. I said, well, what about posting your Facebook? And she's like, I never thought of that. I'm like, you have all these friends you're connected to network. How do you not think of that for networking? If you have like all these friends on Facebook, guess what, folks? That's a network. You're connected to all these people. You have a network already existing right there. I mean, opportunities abound. Let me tell you a little bit of a story. I talked about networking and getting your jobs. The last job I had, the person who gave me that job was one of my Facebook friends. So, not everybody's on Facebook. That's okay. I mean, I get that. I talked to a friend just yesterday who said he's no longer on Facebook. I don't blame him. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff, a lot of negative stuff going on Facebook, but I mean, I personally keep my Facebook because I think it's a great way to keep in touch with family and friends. And never mind all that noise. I mean, I either ignore or turn off any of the noise that comes across. If you are able to use Facebook for your networking, I mean, do it by all means. Take advantage of that. Some other opportunity. I mean, Twitter. Twitter is the medium of choice by people by the SQL community. I mean, you can talk to people like SQL family. My friend Matt Cushing, who does that other Networking 101 presentation, says that his Twitter account is a huge resource for him to tap whenever he needs help or whenever he needs to connect with other people. So he uses that extensively for work. Jen, I've already forgotten her last name. She gave the previous presentation about communicating on a virtual job. Well, there's nothing that says that you can't use your social network to tap into your networking resources to answer questions. Blogging. I have my own blog. I mean, consider one starting with. By the way, I will mention that I do have my own. I do have another presentation I do that talks about blogging. I'm not going to get into it right now because we only have about less than 10 minutes left, but blogging is another great resource. And like I said, it's great for networking because blogging has the ability to allow for user comments. I mean, user comments. Okay, yeah, Jen Lundy, that's right. Thank you, Paul. I think blogging is great. Is a great resource for networking. Shows you what you know. Also, one thing that people don't appreciate blogging is it also shows you what you don't know, and that's great because I could say like, hey, I have this thing I don't know about, but I'm learning about it. People love to see that you're learning about a topic, so that's something that you can show off in your blog. Other ways to network online. I mean, how many of you have used one of these? I mean, a lot of us are SQL professionals. I mean, a lot of us, I'm sure, have been on SQLServerCentral.com at some point. Four Guys from Rolla, I think, is a great resource for developers. What developer and DB8 doesn't know about Stack Overflow? I mean, if what's that somebody once said? If it's not on Stack Overflow, it doesn't exist. I mean, TikTok, Instagram, I don't really talk about those because I'm not on them, but they're there. You know what? It might be another resource tap for networking. There are a lot of online groups that you can connect over online networking. I mean, there's several on Facebook that I belong to. There are a number on Twitter that you could check out. I am on Twitter. I don't use it all that often, but I know they're there. So those are more resources you can check out. Good old-fashioned email lists. How many of you are on email lists for, I mean, let's not talk about the spam. We're not going to go there, but let's say you're joined up with some other organization that interests you and say, yes, send me emails. Bottom line is that even though you're networking virtually and not necessarily face-to-face, then by all means, those are networks. Online networking is still networking. So don't discount networking online because it's another way to network. Okay, so moving right along, like I said, we have less than 10 minutes. Good news is I'm almost done with this thing. So other presentations. These people are all friends of mine. They all gave these other great SQL Saturday presentations that I've seen, and each one of them I'd highly recommend. Network Your Way Success. I've mentioned Matt Cushing several times. Paresh Matwala is, like I said, is a very good friend of mine. He's located out in Boston, and he does several professional development presentations. Great speaker. I recommend him highly. Other resources go check out. Online forum. Oops, sorry, wrong button. Some other networking resources to go check out. There's your local user group. If you don't have a user group locally, I mean, consider starting one. Professional organization interests you. I mean, Data.Saturday, Pass, Redgate's pretty much taking over Pass. I mean, I belong to STC. Maybe if some of you who are developers and maybe engineers belong to IEEE. All sorts of professional organizations out there to go check out. I mentioned online communities, local chamber of commerce. There are other networking groups out there. Like I said, BNI is a big one for business owners. Check out your local library. I think the local library is a vastly underrated resource to use. I mean, it's there for the community to use, and best of all, it's free and it's a great resource. And like I said, any activity in which you're involved, anytime that you interact with other people, that's an opportunity to network. So if you're uncomfortable with public speaking, I'm a Dale Carnegie graduate. That is one organization that I highly recommend. It's not free. I mean, my company paid for me to go, so that's something you might want to check out. Toastmasters is another wonderful organization. I personally am not in it, but I have friends who are, and I've heard great things about it, so that's another one to check out. All sorts of resources out there. I see questions out there. I'll get back to that in just a minute. So let's talk about what we just went over. I mean, networking is about relationships. It's always important to be connected. It's an art. It's not going to happen overnight. Anytime you interact, it's an opportunity to network. Don't feel like you're alone if you don't feel comfortable, or if you're socially, or if you're introverted. I mean, you can network. It's possible. Might take a little bit of work, but you can do it. Be careful about right and wrong ways to break the ice. Continue the relationship. Like I said, if you have business cards, I suggest you make them up or get some. Networking online is still networking. And I feel like I just went through those last several slides in the last few minutes. So at this point, I think we're ready for questions. I'll start with the first one on here. Less than 10% of LinkedIn users are creating content on the platform. Okay, bear with me here while I read this here. Okay, the question is, create content on LinkedIn. Okay, you know what? About the LinkedIn, one thing I will mention is, I mentioned earlier about my blog. I have my blog set up to automatically post to LinkedIn, so that's one way that I use to get more exposure in LinkedIn. And I also posted my Facebook and my Twitter, so that's one way to get exposure. There are other people. I mean, there are a lot of resources on LinkedIn that you can use, like writing articles. Again, just for lack of time, I'm not going to get into them, but explore it and see what resources on there you can tap. Personal branding. I think personal branding is great. A great way to sell yourself, so to speak. Like I said, one of the things I came up with was my own tagline. I started out this presentation with that tagline. My job is to make other people's jobs easier. Think about coming up with your own tagline. And also, these cards are also a version of branding. I mean, so there are a lot of different ways to do that. So I apologize for these quick answers, but like I said, I'm running out of time. Looking at previous questions, too many social profiles have to remember too many passwords. These days, that's a non-factor. You have online password managers. Make use of them. It's not just a matter of remembering too many passwords, but it's also a matter of security. A password manager will help out with all those passwords, and it'll help keep them secure. So passwords are a non-issue in my honest opinion. So don't even worry about that. All networking sites require a profile name. Well, of course they do. What and you say difficult to come up with so many profile. Question I have to shoot back at you. So why are you coming up with all these different profile names? Who says you can't use the same profile name on Piano Ray K? I mean, I use that same profile name on all sorts of accounts. Do you have any idea on how everyone on this call to network? Maybe join your LinkedIn account. Like I said, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. All I ask is include a note saying you met me on LinkedIn. I see a hand up here. Michael, is it? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay. Let me put it on video too, because I live in
Sure.
San Diego, and I'm from LA, so I wear my Dodgers gear. And it's broken the ice both for Padres fans and fellow Dodger fans either way.
Yep.
You know, they razz each other, but then we start a conversation either about baseball or about anything else.
Nothing wrong with that.
But I had to say go Dodgers too, and I thought I'd encourage that.
Like I said, I'm a Yankee fan. I have a lot of friends who are Red Sox fans, including my wife, so I get it.
I speak occasionally on entrepreneurship for developers.
Yep.
Both the CEO. And so that's why I learned how to network and talk to people. But when I moved to San Diego, I went to the .NET user group and introduced myself, saying, hey, I'm new to San Diego. Anyone want to get together for coffee or beer? About 3 or 4 people came up to me. One of them knew me from LA Pro camps and stuff, and it was interesting. But I have to say, SQL nerds are the worst. I went to a SQL user group, introduced myself, and not a single person came up to talk to me. I found that so interesting.
That's too bad. Like I said, it's an art. I mean, it's entirely possible that everything I just told you is not it's possible that none of it may work. I mean, these are suggestions. I mean, these are things that I think work. These are things that work for me. Maybe they'll work for you. Basically, bottom line is that networking is possible. It's doable, even those who are introverted. So there's hope.
One thing you didn't say was meetup groups.
Sorry?
You didn't say meetup group. Might want to add that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, the Capital District meetup group is on Meetup. If you go to my blog or my LinkedIn, I think you should be able to link on it. I didn't think to put it on there, but and again, if you want to see these slides, they are downloadable from my blog. Go to my presentations, and there should be a link to it. They are all the same slides. I mean, the only thing that's different is the starting and ending ones. They're generic. They don't have the LA branding on it, but other than that, so would love to keep talking here, but we're out of time. So thank you all very much for listening to me ramble, and hope you enjoy the rest of your SQL Saturday.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ray.
Yep. Thank you for having me.